listening to The Cell on WGRN 94.1, brought to you by the Faith Thomas Foundation. Hi, I'd like to thank our listeners for tuning in today. This is Felice Thomas, your host. As always, I have to say hi to the people in the room before we get even started. And once again, my number one producer is here with me today, Miss Katie Pettiford. Hello, Katie.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
Where you been? I'm putting you on the spot. Where you been, girl? I'm missing Katie. Our takes are like flawless when Katie, the production that she does and how she produced the show, it just goes through without any hitches. But I think she's out there playing baseball or something, trying to get her team together. So welcome back today, Katie. Thank you. And then I happen to have with me a very good friend of mine, my sister in spirit, Miss Annie Womack. How you doing, Miss Womack?
Hello, dear. How are you? Hey, Katie.
Hello.
Now, you're not going to get all straight-laced and stuff on me here today, are you?
What?
Yeah, you talking, like, right, you get ready to get straight.
It's going to be a good show.
It's going to be a good show? Okay, yeah, because when she start getting all straight-laced and have this...
It's been a long month.
It hasn't been?
Month.
Okay.
Long month.
Okay. I want Annie Womack on this interview.
Okay.
Do I got Annie?
Yes, you do. I'm here.
Thank you. Annie, won't you go ahead and tell our listeners who you are and what it is, organization that you're with again, so that they, are aware what it is that you do.
I am Annie Womack, the Executive Director of the Ohio Sickle Cell and Health Association. We're mandated by the state of Ohio to do all 88 counties for education, advocacy, and outreach for sickle cell patients. We talk about sickle cell disease, sickle cell trait, and other hemoglobinopathies, which are blood disorders across the state, and bringing that much-needed awareness to sickle cell disease.
There's a question I wanted to ask you, because I seen the map, and like you said, you have 88 counties.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just me working with the Faith Thomas Foundation. See, y'all starting already. Annie and Katie are trying to get me to crack up laughing, guys. If you could see these two. But I'm not going to lose it today. I'm not going to lose it, but I'm sure I will lose it somewhere midway through this show. Annie, don't be smiling at me like that. Okay, but anyhow, the 88 counties. Mm-hmm. I'm going back to that. Because I looked at some of the counties, and I know that you have Akron, Cincinnati, some very active chapters or organizations throughout Ohio, but then in some of these other counties, I haven't heard mentioned, as far as something happening in those counties. And then, of course, I'm looking at what role that I might be able to play, or the Faith Thomas Foundation might be able to play, because I do consider the Faith Thomas Foundation an extension of OSHA, as far as getting out there, raising awareness within the communities about sickle cell disease. And with that being said, I kind of have been wanting to, to talk about some of these other counties. So is that something that you're looking forward to have advocacy work performed out there, or just community,
Well, one of the biggest things is, when we do social media, radio, television, that transcends, countywide or statewide.
Okay.
So that's a good way to do advocacy and outreach, because, when people say we want to go to this county or that county, that's a travel. And I know Ohio is drivable 2 hours everywhere. So those major cities that you mentioned, Akron, Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Dayton, and Toledo, they all have regional partners. And those partners are actually in charge of so many counties within their area.
Okay.
So they break up the state that way, and they divide each. Say some regions have more counties, some have less, but they still are mandated to do the same thing that we do, but they have a county-wide approach, where we have a statewide approach. And our statewide approach is more doing a lot of radio, a lot of television, a lot of media, and then we advocate and we just disseminate that information, and then we kind of lean toward our regional partners and our family networks that are housed in the major cities to kind of network outside. So it's almost like that flow chart, if you will.
Yeah.
And the more partners you have, the further your reach can become.
Okay. Well, if you have any problems with any of those, the Faith Thomas Foundation is here for you to help.
I like how she volunteers the whole group. So if you're listening, Faith Thomas Foundation board membership and volunteers, you have been voluntold to assist. So I like how she volunteers everybody.
You didn't realize that you were in there when I said
Yeah,
that.
I
did
knew
you?
that.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? You included
I pretty
in that.
much get voluntold.
Yeah. So we're gonna identify
Yes.
some of those, and we gonna travel.
I have a shirt.
You got a shirt? You sure do have a shirt. I have a shirt too that has OSHA.
I have a shirt that says Faith Thomas, so I understand when to put it on.
And I understand when to put mine on.
Yes, you do.
So that's why I said we're an extension, and we work together real closely. I rely heavily on Annie's guidance and what it is that the Faith Thomas Foundation does. So Annie, I know that September just ended.
Yes.
And you say
Today
yes.
is the first.
Today's the first.
Wow.
Annie was like, when I would talk to her a couple times on there, she was just so tired. She was going to maybe 4 or 5 events a day,
Basically,
and
yes.
I know that you had some things listed, and I'm sorry I couldn't make most of them
because
because
it was a lot.
We were out there doing some things
Yes.
also trying to raise awareness about sickle cell during the sickle cell month. So what are some of the things that you did, Annie?
Well, we started with our advocacy day, which was the last month of August, and we met at the State House to talk about advocacy and talk about the different legislative issues that we have. And then every day, I would say every day, that ends in Y, which is every day, there were events scheduled all throughout. So, of course, we had about 75 outdoor events. Mm-hmm. We had 2 balls. One was yours, and then we ended up with the black and white gala on the 29th.
Yeah.
We also had different health fairs. We had a simultaneous state walk on the 15th in 3 cities, Columbus, Dayton, and Akron, all on one day. We had a bike event. We had a motorcycle event. We had a fish fry. We had a Men in Black event last Wednesday. And again, this weekend, we ended up with another walk that we were participated in, the United Negro College Fund walk, because we are trying to endow a scholarship with them. And then we also had the big health fair, and then a simultaneous HBCU fair, which all ended on the same day.
Wow. That seems like a whole lot.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
I knew that you had, I had marked a couple of them on my calendars, and I thought that I could make it, but then we got kind of hung up in some other events that were going on. I do believe we went to the zoo.
You went to the zoo?
Yeah.
You went to the state fair?
United went to the state fair, for sickle cell month. So we were out there trying to do
And you had your health fair this year.
Yeah. Yes. Next year's going to be very exciting with our health fairs. We're going to end up doing the Woodward Park Community Center in 2019. And we're adding Lowe's onto our event there. We're going to be on their parking lot. So the Faith Thomas Foundation will be hosting its second health fair. So that'll be 2 that we'll have up under our calendar, which OSHA will be there right along the Faith Thomas Foundation.
And you were just voluntold.
Yeah. Yep. You participating somehow, some way or another.
No problem.
Okay.
I'm happy to do it.
That's how, unfortunately, that's how me and Annie kind of do that there. She'll be there. So, 2019 is going to be great, actually, for... I do believe for both of us.
Yeah, we're gonna. We're busy every day, but I think we're gonna be doubly busy next year because we're going into. Our year is already planned out for the next 5 years, so our end of this year will be 2020. So, 2019 is going to be very exciting as we roll out our 5-year plan to 2015 that I have to get all typed up before 2020 to get that out. But we plan to do a lot of different things. We're going to plan on doing a couple bus trips this year, 2019, to go to D.C. where it all happens.
Where it all happens.
Because, of course, we're fighting legislation now with the Sickle Cell Demonstrating and Treatment Act of 2018, how they changed everything and lumped everything in.
I think I remember hearing you when
to go and do that. And then talk about the different, cannabis legislation, how that affects our patients, and then the other different things that are going on under this administration with healthcare and cutting some things and slicing the budget in half and taking some of the Medicare categories and moving them and making people pay more. So those are some things that we'll definitely be on top of coming into this other year. And definitely, you'll probably see me on television. So for all you listeners, you probably have to give Felice some money because I might be in jail. Because I plan to picket. I plan to do a lot of picketing.
You're going to have to get her out,
right? Yeah, just have to bail me out. But get me out because I need to go back to Ohio. But we plan on doing that.
They might be getting me too.
Yeah, we're going to do it. We're planning on, drastic times call for drastic measures. And the way that this legislation is feeling, I mean, it's reminiscent of the 60s and 70s when, you had to stand up for your rights and stand there and yell and do what you need to do to get attention.
I think that what the women are doing since the Me Too movement and, trying to recapture their voice or their power behind their voice. And it seems like about the past 2 or 3 years, women have really been coming out and saying, we're not going to stand it anymore. And women do have a lot more. I mean, we got a lot of power.
Definitely.
Us.
I mean, we're running households and we're running corporations, and it's not the same, that generation when we were growing up and there was a place.
Yeah, that's right.
When we're told to stay in your place.
And they're still trying to tell us.
And they're still trying to say that, but, it's a new age where, you are your family's advocate in every way. Financially, medically, health. I mean, because if you're healthy, you're keeping them healthy.
Right.
I mean, because they don't go through that. I mean, you have to, do that budget. You have to go to work and plan that. Then you have to do home. Kids, and then if you volunteer at your church or any other organization, you're a part of that. It's a leadership role that we assume. And so there's a lot of different things that we have to start doing. But we have to start doing that, the first thing first, and advocating for our families in every way.
Talking about when you said one of the things that they're talking about grouping together and cutting, we're talking about disability and sickle cell patients having sickle cell are considered to have a disability, which therefore what you're talking about is that therefore their funding for their medicines and their hospital treatment and their co-payments and things will probably change.
It'll either change or they'll be put on a different plan, unbeknownst to them. You have a lot of HMOs, and what they do is they will say, well, we no longer want to see this group of patients. And then they're rolled off, and then their hospitals no longer take their insurance,
right.
I mean, we've seen, CareSource and Molina have a certain area that they serve now because they've dropped out of some markets. And that's only because the doctors don't want to deal with the paperwork. And they say, we don't want to do that, so we don't want to take those kind of patients. We don't want to take these kind of patients. And they cater to the doctors and the hospitals.
Yeah, because it's still hard to find. I mean, I know that we have some organizations like Black Doctors that we deal with in order to find a physician that specializes in sickle cell disease and that will take on patients with sickle cell. That will take on patients, that have sickle cell. That still seems somewhat hard to find. And then, like you said, if they don't tend to go into that field. And I think that's why back in 2016 we had, what is your passion? What we wanted to know what some of the doctors, why they chose that field, because it's not like they could make more money going into cancer and some of these other types of diseases which are out there, or blood diseases that are out there, that they get paid more money, to do it. We need to take an identification break here. So I want to thank our listeners to listening to WGRN 94.1 and for listening to The Cell. Once again, I happen to have Annie Womack here with me with OSHA. And like I said, she's a real good friend of mine. So right now she's acting pretty good. Hopefully I can get her to act up. She has a tendency to make me laugh versus me being able to make her laugh. But she just makes these faces and stuff. So don't let her sitting up here, how she's talking, fool you. Okay? Annie she's fun to be with. Look, see, she's over here posing now. So we were talking about some of the disabilities and then about some of the laws that were getting ready. They're trying to change them in order to cut back, on the help that it provides.
Well, recently, the $10 million that we have had since the 70s for sickle cell research has been cut to $4.2 million.
I think I heard you and Cheryl talking about that. Cheryl Jones happens to be the state of Ohio
sickle cell regional coordinator.
And I think I heard the both of you talking about that maybe last year sometime, about that there were some changes and cuts that were, and of course that affects a lot of the programs.
Well, not only does it affect the programs, when they do a budget, they may allocate $10 million, but traditionally they've only given out half of that. So now that they're only allocating $4.2 million, and if they go by what they traditionally do, that means that the sickle cell community will only get about 2.5, and if they lump everybody together, that means that they will probably give sickle cell 2.72 and then try to get somebody else the 1 point whatever that's left. So that becomes the issue, because legally it's our money. So you shouldn't have to fight for something that you legally have, and we've had this money since the 70s. So why then do we have to fight for something that we already legally have, that's already in legislation that they cannot overturn, but they can mess with the money? And that's what they're doing.
Wow. I'll be on that bus when it's time to
we're going on the bus. We're going to get on the bus. Get the patients, those that are listening that are patients, that have family that have sickle cell disease or sickle cell trait. It's time to tell your story. And put it on the internet, post it, talk about it, because the more they hear about your every day-to-day life, they'll understand what's going on with you.
Okay. Yeah. And if some of you want to get your story told, you can always contact the Faith Thomas Foundation on our webpage by going to info at faiththomasfoundation.org. We are always interested in having individuals or organizations come on and talk about the services that you provide, or just to tell your story about some of the things that you experienced as a sickle cell patient, or as an individual that has sickle cell trait, or as a caregiver that has taken care of someone or have a relative that happened to have the disease. And when I say services, I mean all types of services, not just services to sickle cell patients, but services to the community, because this is what the cell is all about. It's not only addressing sickle cell issues, but also about services that impact our community. That could be housing, it could be food, dealing with food banks. It could be dealing with
transportation, medication, clothing,
mental health,
school supplies, mental health.
So
all those things.
The cell wants to get out to the community, to our listeners, all the services that impact our community. Once again, a sickle cell patient suffers from everything. It's not just about sickle cell. They suffer from every other type of disease that anyone else could have. So they also suffer from the same social issues that anyone else has. So once again, if you would like to come on the cell and share your story, or talk to us about your services, please go on info at faiththomasfoundation.org. And then also we have OSHA. Annie, please give your...
We are at the ohiosicklecell.org, so you can reach us. Google us. We'll pop up. So, we're out there. We've done enough traffic in the social media world that we're out there. Both of us are on Facebook,
right?
Twitter. I tweet. You tweet?
Not yet.
Oh, she's not tweeting yet. We're not tweeting, Katie.
Katie has to teach me how to tweet.
Katie.
That's the person who teaches me how to.
Oh my God, Katie.
I just learned how to post this year.
Oh Lord.
What was that about?
Katie.
3 or 4 months ago? Katie said, "Felice, you could." I would send everything to Katie. Katie, post this. Yeah.
Oh Lord.
And I would say, Katie, post that. Katie, do this. And then she happened to do a health fair with me, and she goes, "Oh, Felice, I'm gonna show you how to post." I said, "Oh, she got me cornered now." I want to pass everything on. And she said, "This is how you do it." So I'm sitting there going all slow and everything. And so then when I went to another health fair, and then I posted and I said, "Katie, how did I do?" And she was saying, "You did a good job." So she was encouraging me on, as far as but I still have a lot to learn.
So you got to get her on Twitter now. So get her on Twitter.
It's got to be organic.
Tweet.
It's got to be organic. So when Twitter, you got to, don't they follow you all around and stuff like that?
Yeah,
you got to constantly do a whole lot of posting?
Well, you don't have to, but it's kind of good.
So I got to say, hey, I'm here eating this. Click.
Oh, okay. No.
Hey, I'm here eating that.
No,
Click.
no.
Stick to Facebook.
We'll stick to Facebook.
Oh.
Because
Okay.
you just went off the deep end. She went all off the deep end.
Well, I mean,
No.
Katie
no.
will know when I'm ready to do
Katie
Twitter.
just said you're going to stay on Facebook.
Oh, why can't I go on Twitter?
No.
I'm not ready?
You just went
I'm not
crazy.
ready?
Nobody
Okay.
wants to know what you're eating every day.
So, no. Well,
Nobody
I don't
cares.
follow Twitter. I don't follow
Good.
anyone
Thank
on
you.
Twitter, so I wouldn't know what it is that it's supposed to be.
Alrighty
But
then.
I do kind of do my Facebook thing a little
Well,
bit
that's good.
since
We'll stay on
Katie didn't
Facebook.
try to.
We'll just stay.
I just need to learn a few extra tricks.
That's all.
But
Facebook Live, maybe. Facebook Live?
I think y'all.
Okay.
Did I learn that one yet?
No, we don't.
That's
You've
my
been
next
on
one.
Facebook Live.
I've been on it, a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Felice, get on the mic.
yeah. Now that's a voluntoad. She'll come over and tell me or tell somebody that I'm getting ready to do something. She's talking about me volunteering. When I go to her events, which we both know. We both know what zone we're going to be in.
Hey.
And it's just like you're standing there waiting for her, or she's waiting for me to tell her what to do, and I'm waiting for her to tell me what to do.
That's
then we
kinda
kind
what
of
it was.
gravitate towards where the areas that we kind of know that we need to be at.
No problem.
No, I know. And that's the best
No
thing
problem.
about it. It's
No
a no problem.
It's copacetic.
Yeah. So, Joanna was here last week, and she was telling us about the fish fry.
Okay. Yeah, we did have the fish fry over at the Marion Franklin Rec Center. They have a social club that they house there called the Men in Black, and they do a lot of volunteer work. These are older gentlemen. They're retired. Some of them are ex-military. Some of them are, retired school teachers, retired professionals. And so what they do is they pick one social cause. So they pick sickle cell. And so they have these great two guys that can really cook. So they have these meals that they prepare, and then they do line dancing, they do all kind of stuff, so they're very active. And so they hosted a fish fry, and then an information session about sickle cell. So we went, it was very nice, and people had questions about sickle cell, and had older people there that were never tested because tests were not around.
Correct.
And so we had a couple of the caregivers tell their story about how when they were getting married, they only tested them for syphilis, and that was it. They never tested them for anything else, and they would do the blood test to see if they was related, and that was it.
What is that R factor? Remember before they used to have something before you got married. You used to have to have some type of R factor.
Yeah, and that was to see if you were related.
And that was it?
And that was it. But then, of course, the government was doing undercover testing for other things.
Oh, Lord.
But they were never tested for sickle cell or sickle cell disease or trait or anything like that.
Yeah,
they were only
that's a
looking
whole
for specific things.
Yeah.
And so they were, we had one parent stand up and she said, well, she had two kids with sickle cell disease, one with something else. They never were tested. So they didn't know. Had they known, they would not have,
Do you feel that they still, this is in 1990, they started doing mandatory testing. Do you still feel that every child which is born that they're still testing to see if they have sickle cell?
Yeah,
that you're capturing all
Yeah,
of them?
we capture everyone in the United States. Now, some countries are more advanced where they're also testing for every disease, but the United States tests for every disease. So when they started the testing, it was 3 diseases. Then it went to 12. And so now it's everything. Even those that are 1 in a million, they still test for those diseases.
So then really what the issue is the communication.
Yeah,
from
I think it's the
parent to child.
communication. It definitely is from parent to child, because when you're born, you have sickle cell disease.
Correct.
I mean, because there'll be issues,
You'll
but
have
the
issues,
trait
right,
will
but
not.
the trait,
it's
yeah.
not identified. So it's up to the parent then to talk to their children at childbearing ages to also say, "Hey, you have this, and this is what can happen."
Well, I mean,
but a lot of them don't do that.
Yeah, they should be talking about it from even when they're coming up and getting involved in sports, even because now there are some issues that they're still doing, I guess, that
sickle cell trait in athlete
and athletes can have problems with high altitudes, right? You know, in
high altitudes, low altitudes. But that is rare. It's rare because it is genetic. So what may affect one person may not affect the other. So you just can't cross section it. But sickle cell trait in the athlete is very important for people to. And I think that movement was because everybody just thought it was an African American disease that everybody else, no one else got tested. And then we had a person over here and they're like, oh, but he's Asian. So what's going on with him? And then they say, oh, well, you know that it does affect this. And they're like, what? We didn't know that. So that's why. And then you have a high African population that do come to the United States and go to school. And they soccer. And, you know, those are some things that, you know, in the high Mediterranean population. So, you know, you can't put it to African Americans.
You know, the thing that my tip at the zoo this weekend at the United Healthcare was that sickle cell only impacted 90%, that it was not just an African American disease. So that was my biggest tip at, you know, when we were at the United Healthcare at the zoo this past weekend, was that I just picked one topic that I felt was important to cover, but yet not to get too deep, because, you know, they had kids, you know, with them and things like that. But just to let them know that it's not an African, not just an African American disease. Just like you said, you know, it could be Mediterranean, Turkey, Greece, any of those, the Caribbeans, any of those. And they were like, a lot of people were really shocked and surprised because they, you know, and I said, I said, your daughter can bring home an Italian, and do you realize that they also have a 10%, you know, of one of the other races that can have sickle cell, you know, disease? And they were like, what? And I said, even a Greek.
We have a large population. The Greek Orthodox Church is, you know, they always let us come in and talk about sickle cell because it's very prominent. So that's something that they know about very well. Yeah, but I mean, it's still something about how a lot of people just still have that stigma that it's just an African American disease. You know, and that comes from, you know, and that's why we are still here in 2018 doing education, because you have a lot of professionals that don't understand, don't even know what sickle cell disease is, and that's very unfortunate.
Yeah, and that's why we're out here doing all this outreach out here in the community. You know, that's why we're out here doing all this outreach out here in the community to, you know, make everyone, or try to have everyone be aware of what sickle cell disease is, not to be scared to talk about it, and to make it a conversation where it's just a normal conversation versus an uncomfortable conversation. So Annie, could you give us your webpage and stuff again here? Oh, sure. She wants you to call me rather than call her. So again, we are the Ohio Sickle Cell and Health Association. We are at ohiosicklecell.org. And again, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter. And our office number is 614-228-0157. Well, I'm going to prove you wrong. They can call me, and you can also email me at info@faiththomasfoundation.org. She got an email. My phone number is, my email is fthomas@faiththomasfoundation.org. And my phone number, if you would like to talk to me about anything and reach out to me, 614-476-6304. We're going to have to wrap it up here. So I like to say thank you, Katie and Annie. Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for having me. As always, Annie happens to be my co-host. One of my many co-hosts. I think I have about 4 or 5 of them now. But she's here to, you know, help me with the radio show. And in addition to Joanna Floyd, and those tend to be my main two about right now. So with that being said, this is Felice, and I thank you for listening and tuning in and listening to The Cell. Peace out. Well, that's the end of today's show. I want to thank you for listening to The Cell on WGRN 94.1. You can find us on Facebook or at faiththomasfoundation.org for more information on our upcoming events. Join us every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. here on WGRN.